Okay, so today I thought I would do something a little bit different. Now that we're officially in April, we are officially through the first 3 months of the year, which means the first quarter has already gone by of 2021. Can you believe it? So I thought that what I would do would be to go back through all the books that I read in the first quarter of 2021 and evaluate them by announcing my top 5 books for the first quarter and my bottom 5 books for the first quarter. My bottom 5 books will be done in my next video. Today we focus on the good stuff, the top 5 books. I am going to go in order from 5th place through to 1st place. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5 is As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper. This is a YA LGBTIQ plus book that follows the life of a boy whose name is Marty. Marty is an oboist. He loves to play the musical instrument, the oboe, and one day he hopes to join the London Symphonic Orchestra. The book picks up with Marty living in Texas, and in Phil Stamper's fictional world of Texas, gay people are not accepted. So Marty flies from Texas over to London to see how he's going to go there as a musician, but also as a gay guy to see how things will go over there. This book was just fantastic. So last year I read Phil Stamper's first book, The Gravity of Us. And I loved that book for so many reasons. I think that Phil Stamper really shines such a positive light onto the LGBTIQ plus book community because of what he does. He is not only an amazing author, I love his writing style, I love the way he writes characters, but he also brings a lot of real and raw and tough issues that LGBTIQ plus community members face on a daily basis into his books and shines a glaring light onto them. I really appreciated the issues that were brought up in this book, and I just want to mention a couple of them. The first one I want to mention is dangerous dieting, so like not eating or, even bulimia, things like that, does come up in this book. Another thing that comes up in this book is religion and persecution from religion for being gay. So I'll leave it with those 2 topics. I really thought that Phil Stamper did an amazing job with both of them in this book, also at the same time providing a really enjoyable plot. So I highly recommend this book, and that's why As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper came in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is this book, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. This is an adult self-help book. One of the reasons why it comes into this top 5 is just because of how much I resonated with this book, but also this is the only non-fiction book that I've read that I recommend other potential readers to read. I have never in my life picked up another non-fiction book and said to anyone, you need to read this book, but with this one, I definitely do. The quickest way to explain this book is that it is a self-help book that Marianne Williamson has written about coming back to a place of love, hence the title, A Return to Love. Coming back to a place of love from a place of fear or a place of hate, things like that. And Marianne Williamson just did this in a really brilliant way. Everything that came up in this book, from chapter 1 all the way through to the end, I just resonated with all of it. I have an open mind when I read self-help books that I'm not always going to resonate with everything. Maybe I'll resonate with 1 or 2 things, maybe more, maybe less. I'm very open-minded when I go into any sort of a self-help book to read it just to see what the author's written. But with Marianne Williamson, I resonated with everything. Bottom line, it is high time that all humans in 2021 return to a place of love. With this book existing right now, I really do believe that this book needs to get into the hands of anyone and everyone. Whether you read the physical book, the ebook, or the audio version, which there's an audio version on Audible that Marianne Williamson narrates herself, I feel that everyone should read this because, it's about love. And that is the biggest thing that should matter for everyone. And so, I just thought this was really amazing. I just thought it was incredible that we had an author talking about how to come from a place of fear or a place of hatred back to a place of love. She did an amazing job. And that's why A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is this book, Keeper of the Lost Cities, specifically Book 1 by Shannon Messenger. This is a middle grade fantasy book that revolves around a girl who is right there on the cover. Her name is Sophie. Sophie ends up learning that she is not human. There is more to her than meets the eye. Through a set of circumstances, Sophie is taken away from the human world into a world of magic where there are other beings like her, and she's enrolled into a school named Foxfire. I keep going to say Firefox, but Foxfire, that has other beings like her where she can learn more about who she is, learn more about accessing her abilities and what they are, and all those sorts of things. There's a tagline on the cover that says perfect for fans of Harry Potter, and I completely agree. Harry Potter is a book about a boy who it turns out that he is a wizard, and then he goes to a school for witchcraft and wizardry to learn how to be a wizard. Sophie is not a witch or a wizard, but she goes through the same sort of thing. She finds out she is a certain being, then she goes to the school to learn about being that being. And this book was just incredible. There are so many great characters in this book, and the plot was just really intriguing as well. The way things are in this world, I don't want to give away anything specific, but I will just say the way that money works in this world really surprised me. The magic systems are just amazing. I really do love them, and I just thought that the plot was really, really good, and at the moment, I'm going to get through this series because I love it so much. So I end up giving this book 5 stars. I really, really love this series, and I do highly recommend it. For a middle grade, it is astoundingly brilliant. For a book where we don't judge it on its age rating, it is a fantastic book. So take it either way that you want. It's a long book for a middle grade, but it is worth the read if you love fantasy, and that is why Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 1 by Shannon Messenger, comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is this book, Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. This is another middle grade fantasy book, and it is again book 1 in a series. I've opened up a ton of series already, and we're only through the first 3 months, you guys. Like, this is just insane. But this book revolves around a girl whose name is Morrigan. Morrigan was born on a day that it ultimately turned out any child born on that exact day to that exact year is cursed to die at the age of 12. On the eve of her 11th birthday, there is a broadcast that comes through from the news saying that the curse has actually been brought up a year, and that all of those who were born 11 years ago on that specific day are going to die within the next 24 hours. So Sophie has to come to terms with the fact that she is going to die in 24 hours. And this is all happening in chapter 1. On the night of Sophie's 11th birthday, the curse will take place at midnight, and around about 11 o'clock, the family is sitting down to have dinner. Now, it is important for you to know that Morrigan's family really did not get so attached to her because of the curse, and also they don't come across as loving at all because of this. They're rather neglectful of her. Even for her final dinner, the family members seem to be talking about things that have nothing to do with Morrigan, acting as though this isn't even a thing that's going to happen. But then, right before midnight strikes, a man walks into Morrigan's home, and his name is Jupiter. Jupiter is whimsical and hilarious, and if you love Harry Potter, that series, and you love Professor Dumbledore and the whimsy that comes with him, you will love Jupiter. Jupiter goes on to say quite a few whimsical things to the family, like Morrigan's father, for instance, says, "What are you doing in my home?" And Jupiter will say something along the lines of, "Well, I'm here now, so what are you going to do about it?" He ends up asking Morrigan a very important question, which is, "Morrigan, do you want to die?" And Morrigan says, "Well, no. I mean, if I had the choice, of course I wouldn't want to." And Jupiter then says to her, "Well then, why should you? Come with me, let's go." And of course the family have a reaction, but Jupiter, being the character that he is, says, yes, well, I'm going to take Sophie. What are you going to do about it? Sophie, we're wasting time. Let's go. They leave, and he takes her to a fantastical world. Now, Sophie would love to remain in this world. It is amazingly fantastical, but the only way for her to remain in that world is to take part in 3 trials so that she can become a member of the Wanderers Society. There is so much more that I have not discussed about this book, but if this has you intrigued at all, then I highly recommend this book. I had so much fun with this book, and I can see myself becoming as obsessed with this series, the Nevermore series, as I was with Harry Potter. So that is a very high recommendation coming from me, and that is why Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend, comes in at number 2. Now, there were a number of books that I could have placed into this top 5 list, and there were some that just didn't make it that I would love to give some very quick honourable mentions to. First of all, to The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. This book was an absolute treasure, and I very much enjoyed it. I felt like Brandon Sanderson did an amazing job with this one. Also, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is an adult classic book, and I just thought, up until the last sentence anyway, the last sentence was a bit but up until that point, it was incredible. This book was written in, I think, like the 30s or something. I never thought I would love a book from that era, and yet Daphne du Maurier is just an amazing author, and I can't wait to read more of her works. And finally, Goosebumps Welcome to Dead House. This was a triumph for me. Last year I read another Goosebumps book, and it absolutely failed for me on every single level that it received one of my very few 1-star ratings for last year. But Welcome to Dead House was just an amazing turnaround victory for R.L. Stine when it came to my thoughts and feelings. It was a middle grade horror done at its best, and I really appreciate it. Now that we've done the honourable mentions, let's get on to the number 1 book that I read in the first quarter of 2021, and that book would be, drumroll please, Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a YA, I believe, but it could be adult, so there you go, fantasy that revolves around 2 sisters. Now, they both end up going to a carnival place, and one of the sisters is abducted and the other sister has to find her in amongst a game where there are other contestants involved. What I love about this book is the fact that we are in a place where there is like this competition that's going on where clues need to be found, and then you need to solve those clues to keep moving on to eventually find whatever the target is. In this case, it just so happens to be our protagonist's sister. I had a blast with this book, and even by the time I got to the end of the book, like 3/4 of the way through the book, I had certain theories going on that were racing through my head. This was just so good, and I give so much praise to Stephanie Garber for this book. Now, I am not continuing on with the series. I read book 2 and it let me down, but book 1 stands on its own for me as the single most outstanding book that I read in the first quarter of 2021, because it was just so exciting, and Stephanie Garber just kept me on my toes throughout the entire course of the book, and I just had my mind racing with all these different theories, and I'm running around with our protagonist going, okay, where's the next clue? Okay, what's the next thing we need to do? Oh my gosh, it was just so good. Caraval definitely stood out to me in a very big way, and I just want to say a very big thank you to Stephanie Garber, because I really enjoyed this book. These are my top 5 books for the first quarter of 2021. What would your types These are my top 5 books for the first quarter of 2021. What would your top 5 books be? Let me know in the comments section below. And have you read these? And if so, what did you think of them? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate the love. But in the meantime, letting you guys go, peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!